Have you ever picked up a brand new game series and thought, this is super cool, but where did it all begin? What changes has the series gone through, and what was happening to Kirby when Bill Clinton was elected? Video Game Compilations, usually released by a company to let the fans experience their best games. Not to be confused with 2-in-1 deals, because those are usually two separate games released together for a consumer to feel like they're getting some form of value. Compilations are usually something celebratory, and come with either digital or physical goodies that document the company's past. They normally are a collection of older titles that give both new players a chance to see what made the company great, or let older fans own all of their games on one system. And who better to talk about re-releasing older titles than Nintendo, one of the greatest video game companies of all time sometimes. Nintendo has such a rich history when it comes to their games, so of course they would have compilations for their older titles. So today we're going to take a look at the major ones and see which ones are a worthy celebration of the company's past, and which ones are just hot garbage. Now keep in mind, this isn't a list of all of them. Like, the Game & Watch bundles are super cool, but it just doesn't feel like there's a lot that I can talk about with them. I'm mainly going to focus on the compilations that are on Nintendo's home consoles. And so we can add an arbitrary number to them, I'm going to be ranking them on a scale of 1 to 9 because double digits just absolutely frighten me. Let's kick things off with the oldest Nintendo collection, all the way back on the NES. The Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt bundle was packaged in the NES Action Set, one of the many bundles released in North America. In the set was the console, 2 controllers, a zapper, and the game. And for the time, this was pretty sweet. There's no extras or anything, but what did you expect? It's really just Duck Hunt and Mario. What more do you need? Another version was released a year later in the Power Set, this time including the Power Pad and a 3-in-1 cartridge featuring world-class track meet. Overall, I like these. They are simple, refined, and perfect for oversaturating the NES market. You can barely sneeze without finding one of these cards. Technically, you can make the argument that this doesn't really belong on this list because it's more of a value bundle than a collection, but this was pretty early on in Nintendo's life, so I'm just gonna give it a pass for now. Oh yeah. Super Mario All-Stars was released in 1993 and is one of the greatest things to ever bless this earth. It was made to celebrate 10 years of Mario, and that would be true if they included Mario Bros. So close. Nintendo wanted the games to be completely reworked, and it's absolutely wonderful. Full upgrades to the first 3 games, as well as lost levels the first time this was playable in the States. They added the ability to save in each of the games, and in December they re-released the game bundled with the Super Nintendo and including Super Mario World, as well as tweaking Luigi to look more than just a color swap Mario. This collection is, in my mind, the closest to perfection we will ever get. It's really funny to me to think that this game was made just to fill the gap between Super Mario Kart and Yoshi's Island. The amount of care that went into this, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do for the 25th anniversary. Just like I cannot wait to look up what the definition of this means. After All-Stars, Nintendo really didn't release another collection of games for a while. The Nintendo 64 really didn't get anything, probably because developers were more focused on making games look like this and not look like this. No, the next collection we got wouldn't release until the GameCube. And the one we got, oh man. The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. It came bundled with the Nintendo GameCube, or it could be obtained through subscribing through Nintendo Power, or by registering a GameCube and 2 or more of a selection of 4 games. Basically, you could do anything and you could get a copy of this. As a kid, I played the hell out of this. I would mess around in the original Zelda and then get really bored, and then go mess around in the Adventure of Link and then get really bored. I remember getting pretty far in Ocarina of Time and watching my brother play a ton of Majora's Mask. Now, as a fully grown adult, I sit down and look at this collection, I smile, and say, where is Link to the Past? It seems really weird to me now, not including one of Zelda's best-selling games. Granted, the re-release just came out on the Game Boy Advance, but not including it here just feels really hollow. And while we're at it, where's the other Game Boy games? As a really dumb and stupid kid, I didn't care, but Link's Awakening is one of my favorite games of all time, and you couldn't even throw it in? Sure, we get a nice little retrospective of all the Zelda games, as well as a 20-minute demo for Wind Waker, but I don't know, it just feels like it would have been a really easy addition. Plus, Majora's Mask has its own issues, including straight-up freezing. The frame rate was cut to 20 to help the game run better, but it's just littered with its own issues. I feel like the effort was here, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it, but it also could have been better. Alright, picture this. It's the year of our Lord 2010. It's Mario's 25th anniversary. I cannot wait to see what crazy thing Nintendo has done. It's going to just be so exciting. This is just Super Mario All-Stars on a Wii disc. Now look, I'm not mad, and I'm not saying that they didn't try, but they had the ROM that included World. Why is that not on this disc? Would it have been just too much of a good deal for people? Did you really have to use that extra money you saved on the soundtrack that only included 10 songs from all of Mario's history up to this point? Like, this feels super cheap, and it's like Nintendo didn't even care. And this was released in 2010. There were loads of game companies at this point that were also creating game compilations that had a lot of effort for their games, and you couldn't even squeeze in Super Mario World. Another game that released on the Wii was Kirby's 20th anniversary, and this is beautiful. I was never really a huge Kirby person. I had Nightmare in Dreamland on Game Boy Advance, and I had Epic Yarn on the Wii, as well as the NES game on Virtual Console, but I was too busy playing good games like Motor Mayhem on the PlayStation 2. But this game is what a collection should strive to be, especially for an anniversary. You get 6 classic Kirby games, a challenge mode, the history of the Kirby timeline, a booklet, and a soundtrack with 45 songs from Kirby's history. This is wonderful, and it really puts this to shame. Finally, we have the latest collection released from Nintendo, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Announced back in September of 2020, Super Mario 3D All-Stars was a collection of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, all bundled together for Mario's 35th anniversary, and I'm just so torn on this. Like, none of these games were really remastered from the ground up like the original All-Stars was. Sure, all 3 of these games were tweaked a bit to work on the Switch's game controllers, and they changed this button down here to look like the plus button on Super Mario 64, but it would have been cool to see all these games styled like Odyssey. I don't think this collection was lazy per se, however, I think Nintendo leaned really into the convenience of this games just a little bit too much. Like, I don't have proof of this, but think about it. The only other way you could play all of these games was to get a Nintendo Wii that already had Super Mario 64 installed on it, a copy of Sunshine, a copy of Galaxy, and the GameCube accessories to actually play Sunshine. Either that, or you track down each console and each game to play. And before you say it, I know there is a way to play these games for much cheaper that starts with home and ends in a word that rhymes with stew, but I can't talk about it because I already hear Nintendo agents outside my door. At the time, this was a great way to own almost all of what made 3D Mario great. Emphasis on at the time. Yeah, the biggest and most bizarre choice Nintendo made was having this game be a limited time offer alongside Super Mario 35, a battle royale in the same vein as Tetris 99. Since it ended almost 3 months ago, copies of eBay started popping up asking for what? And huh? Granted, there are copies for way less, but I feel like over time, this is going to be one of those rare games that you have to pay a pretty penny to get. I own my copy digitally because I was too impatient, and now I can never sell this console. I made that mistake with Chibi Robo, I will not do it again. But let's talk about the game really briefly. You get 3 great games, the soundtracks for each of the games, and that's it. Like, the soundtracks are cool, and these 3 games have wonderful scores to accompany them, but these would have been much better on, like, a physical disc. I would have preferred manuals, behind-the-scene images of the games, hell, something that could rival the Kirby collection. And I think that's what stinks the most about the collection. The fact that we have seen Nintendo do better when it comes to this stuff, and it just leaves a bad taste in the fans' mouth, especially when it comes to Mario, the franchise that made Nintendo who they are today. Sure, it's better than this, but when you have to compare your product to one of the worst compilations ever made, can you really call that a victory? And that was a look at some of Nintendo's main compilations, and at the end of the day, it feels like Nintendo just got really mediocre over time. Like, sure, the Kirby collection was rad, but the fact that everything just felt so last minute is just kind of disappointing, especially when you compare other compilations from other companies. But it's also not like these are the worst things ever. Even the 25th anniversary collection, while incredibly lazy and horrible, did eventually become a Nintendo Select, making the game fairly cheap. Plus, there's still nice ports of the games, making it easier to experience for everyone. But they didn't include Mario World, so f*** them.